This is the Mammotion Yuka series, and you might notice that this is not the Yuka Mini that I have been testing out previously. The main difference here is that it has one caster wheel up front, and it's heavier, bigger. It has a smaller battery, strangely enough. This package with the, I guess the main thing that's different here is this has a sweeper kit. So you can actually pick up leaves. It's not quite fall yet, especially for leaves back here, but in the front we have some leaves on the ground, which we can have this test out and use. It's not super different than the Yuka Mini. It's same general design. Has a manual change here to set the level at which you cut, and has the same 2 camera system. Only difference up front here is that it has a wiper, strangely enough, and then that one caster wheel that I mentioned. The other thing is that this as a whole uses this portion of the body here as a bumper. So as I mentioned in my Yuka Mini review, it had issues running into things. This one also doesn't have a light too, so this is the more expensive, so bigger brother, if you will, of the Yuka Mini. And we're gonna test this out, see how it is. Also uses RTK, so we'll set it up in the backyard here and in the front, and get everything going. Setup process is, again, pretty straightforward, pretty simple. We'll set it up and we'll show you if this is any good or not. And just something to note here, one of the reasons why we ended up returning the Yuka Mini was not necessarily because it was bad at its job. One of the things was that they had a sale, which was within my 30-day window period. So I mentioned, hey, since you had the sale, could you give me the $200 that you now set as a discount? Because essentially I could return it and then, I could buy it back and get $200 off. This one here with the sweeper kit is about $2,000. So again, more expensive, almost double the cost of what it would be now. This costs, let's see here, $2,035.62. So again, quite a bit more than the Yuka Mini. So if you're looking budget-wise, the Yuka Mini does its job, and honestly is a good robot. I thought this opportunity, if I was returning it, that I can test out the sweeper kit and see if it works to pick up leaves as well. So, and it just gives me an opportunity to test out some new things. So we'll test this out for 30 days, see if we like it or not, and if we have issues, we'll return it and we'll get the Yuka Mini back. There's also the Luba 2 and the Luba 2 Mini, the Luba Mini. I was thinking of testing those out because those are completely different, but since this one had an extra feature that I thought might be beneficial, I thought it might be helpful. Now, obviously the leaves fall every, once a year, so, it's not really something that, this is strictly a luxury item. It's not really something that I would think you need. But if it's something in your old age, you can't sweep up the leaves anymore, or you don't want to pay people to sweep them up, it's something that, can pile up your leaves in one section. So they also, with this package, with the sweeper, give you an extra battery too. So if it runs out of batteries, you can fill it up, or you can switch out the batteries real quick. So that's something that, again, comes with this extra, I think it's a $650 package. But if you look at this system, or this bigger brother, it has two motors that actually cut the grass. So it's a bigger, it'll do kind of like one pass versus the Yuka would have done 2 passes. The Yuka Mini would have done 2 passes. So that's also something to take note of that was different versus the Luba Mini, which has basically the same amounts of blades and has the same cutting width as the Yuka Mini. So it likely can shed off quite a bit of time in mowing because it doesn't have to do like 8 passes versus like 4 passes. So a few differences here. The charger is quite a bit different. This one goes in forward, but again, this thing is like 120 to 150% of the size. It's quite a bit bigger. And then over here, we're gonna try to place this in the same spot just to get the same results here. This thing is, or the RTK receiver is quite a bit longer, so I'm not sure if that's anything to do with anything, but that is essentially different. We'll connect this to our app. You wanna make sure you connect to the RTK to your Wi-Fi. You wanna make sure it can actually connect to your Wi-Fi, and then obviously the Yuka to the Wi-Fi as well. So we'll get that started. But yeah, this thing is quite big. I'm surprised it only has like a 1/4 acre, but I guess that's just with the size of the battery. And then this has the attachment back here, so it can hook into here so that it can actually do the sweeping of the leaves. But we're gonna just set this up the same way that we set up the Yuka Mini, where the RTK is right over here antenna-wise, and then we just wire it through the bushes here around the grill and then to the charging station. The RTK system has the ability to be plugged in separately. So if you had a plug like over here or over on that side of the house, then you can plug it in there. So there are a couple methods to actually set up the lines for your yard. Now, for our particular yard, there aren't any fences or any real borders, which are obvious. So using the auto mapping is not really the best option. So depending on what your yard looks like, you can use one or the other. For this, we ended up using the manual, and in parts of it used auto, but using auto didn't end up working super well. So I tried using the auto mapping here, and what I saw was that when I tried using this, it would actually map out a pretty far away from the edge of the grass. So it wasn't something that I really liked because I wanted it to mow the entire grass. So you can see here, it's kind of just lining up maybe a foot away from the actual edges and not really something that I wanted. Now, mapping it manually just gives you the best way to mow all of the things that you want to mow. You can see here, it's actually going around the plant here and not doing what I would actually want it to do. I want it to mow up to that path there instead of mowing around this entire thing. But you can play around with this to see. Right here, it's pretty close, maybe like 6 inches away. And again, here, it's trying its best to avoid as much of the plants as possible. So I would say this is generally pretty decent. Again, it's getting pretty close up in here, but again, not getting so close where it would be any issues. Now, depending on how your plants grow, it could cause a problem here where the plants are growing out and it ends up mowing down quite a bit of it. So it just depends what your flavor is. Again, using the auto feature, in my opinion, wasn't the best and most accurate, but it's something that is a feature and you can do if you have a very specific yard that is broken out by a fence or very specific yard lines or streets and what have you. Okay, so I'm following the directions here. It's telling me to put the extra battery here underneath here. So it looks like there's a compartment for 2 of them. Plug in our other one and hook it up. So there's the sweeper. Sweeper hooks on externally. There's a few things to bolt on and we'll show you those things too. So right now we'll hook this buddy up there. All right, so we took this out using the given hardware here. So we're gonna take this out and then plug this puppy in so that hopefully this thing gets a little bit more runtime, but it also will use it to utilize the sweeper too. So give it a little extra power here. So this is a 4.5 amp. So it'll give this a total of a little bit more power than what we have in the 6 amp. Plugging these 2 in. That's the first one here, and then the second one here, just right there. Gonna need 2 hands for this. All right, so all that's installed. I wanna make sure this fits in here. Yep. Oop, lost a screw. I wanna make sure this is pretty tight, just because you don't want water to get to the batteries. That would be not so great. It's got some nice little washers in there that are seemingly water tight. So we'll tighten this back up. You can also see the deck lid here, so you can see the caster wheel here that we're dealing with. That's just one. Everything's kind of just larger in size compared to the Yuka Mini, which makes sense, right? I think these are bigger wheels and tires too. And again, these are set up so that you can put air tags in them so that you can get an additional set of security, because if you invest in something like this, you probably want it to last a little bit longer than a couple of years. Maybe a year or two of using this will help you save some money if you're looking to save money and don't want to do the lawn work yourself. But you can see here, this bit here is the special bit. So this will flap and then add the to the bag that's over here. So it'll work just like a lawnmower bag. And collect us some leaves. This is supposed to be set up like this, and we're covering up this like that. And then we'll screw those 8 screws in, and then we should be good. Don't listen to anything I say. It's supposed to be this way, not this way. So you can lift this out like that. That's the way it's supposed to be. just snap it in. Just give it a little snappy. Just snap it in. Yeah, so there's like a channel in here for this. You can see this here. And just doesn't look like it's fitting in quite right. All right, when the bag is not clipped in, it seems to fit better. So that you can see here, this is aligned here and this is in the right channel here. And then we will try stuffing it in from here and see if it stretches out that far. Doesn't seem to have any issues once it's in. Yep, seems to be good. Maybe a little bit overstretched here. There's just not enough room, guys. Which I guess I'm going to do because there's not, I'm gonna cut this little lip here and then give me some extra room to play with because there ain't no room. One of the last things here, I had to take this off and screw the caps in here. This is the counterbalance, so when you do put this heavy thing on here, that it doesn't fall backwards when it's going up and down hills and stuff like that. So it goes on kind of like this, like that. And then this here, where is it here? Push here, and then you need to plug this in here. And then you have a sweeper. So that's what you got there. And then this needs to be in here when it's not in use. And then that needs to be plugged up here if that's not in use. There we go. It goes this way. That's how you take that out. This is actually decently heavy. Alright, so this is, again, the... Why'd you pause? Okay. Why'd you pause? There's no light on this one. This one's totally gonna mow these things down during the nighttime. Definitely have to do a no-go line or zone around these. I'm not sure why this paused. Okay, so the error is poor positioning. There is a big tree over here, a big tree over here. So that makes sense, but I don't think it should run into an issue positioning-wise here. So I'm just gonna let it sit and see if it continues to go. But I do need to actually watch to make sure it doesn't run these things over, which I might actually just put no-go zones around it right now because I don't want to come back out here and find that it has stuck mowing down these things. Again, I had to move it kind of away and wait for it to get good signal. So not entirely sure, but we'll see, I guess, if this thing mows this over or not. Again, it doesn't have, I'm gonna have to turn off the flash thing because, and that is a tree that it's about to run into, so just brushed up against it. Yeah, I'm curious because it seemed like the Yuka Mini had a light, but it still had problems running into stuff during the nighttime, so because it doesn't have a bumper. But this one doesn't have a light on it, so it just ran into the tree. Now it's going around it because it knows that because it has a bumper. We're back. It's going straight for the bush here. Let's see what happens. It's gonna run straight into it. Oh God. Jesus. Yep, no-go lines for all these. This one's big enough and strong enough to basically run the entire thing over, so I hope that didn't just destroy this plant here. Okay, I'm sending you back. All right, third time coming out here. This thing is stuck in a divot here, and it's just torn up some grass to try to get out, so lovely.
The robot tilted.
Okay, so that's the divot. I guess I should technically fill that, but
The robot tilted.
this thing is pretty heavy too. Seemingly because it's heavy, or heavier, I think it's like 10 pounds heavier. This little divot here has given it problems because it's too heavy and it has one caster wheel. Apparently it didn't run into this issue doing it the first time, but yeah, now it ran into the issue. Let's see how we're doing here, buddy. You got stuck, didn't you? Wheels are suspended. It won't keep going. Also, this cap got removed, so that's not good. So we'll put that back here. So strange thing, you can drive this over, but
The robot tilted. The front wheel lifted.
dig in some holes here. This should have edge detection, but it just keeps kind of wanting to go over this. Strange. The other one did not do this. But this one seems to want to keep doing this. And not sure why, but it doesn't seem to want to do this line properly. Obviously it has the camera, should have edge detection and stuff like that, but it keeps going over this like that. So when doing this here, we actually get it pretty close to the edge, but obviously don't want it to go over the edge. But again, seems to be having some troubles. But the Yuka Mini didn't have this issue, so I'm not entirely sure why this one is, the more expensive one, is having this issue. But yeah, this one's had to stop so many times. And again, doesn't have a light at nighttime. So I'm not sure if that adds to a portion of this or what. But obviously you want it to do as much as possible, and use all the sensors that it has to properly cut everything it can. So yeah, thus far, not a great experience with this. It's been very much a mediocre experience. I would almost not recommend this one and recommend the Yuka Mini because that one had a lot less issues than this one has had. We're back out here to see how it does on this edge here. and see if it jumps off the ledge here. I guess we will see what happens. I think the obvious solution for this is just making sure that it doesn't get too close to the edge. So within like a couple inches, but not actually rolling on the curb here. Last, the Yuka Mini, I did have that riding on the side here, and it never had an issue going over. So not sure what's in that one, or if it was just the lines that I made, but it was like really close to the edge here. There's just a portion of this that you can see, you know, it would dig into it. So it did do quite a big of a digger here. So obviously it can screw up your lawn more than it can actually help. But across this ledge here, there's quite a bit of like grade here. So you can like totally jam your foot in the middle of this. Pretty close. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening here. But I think possibly because the Yuka Mini also has 2 caster wheels in the front, that it doesn't really have an issue with this. So it can balance itself out a bit more too. This one's getting really close to the edge here, so that's great. But also, if there's an issue with satellite, it can lose its wheel on the side. Let's see if it does it here. It was able to get through, but look how close it is. So I'd say that's probably as close to what a lawnmower would do. This is set at 2.8 inches currently. So on the side, the deck here missed a couple strands, but again, that's just based on you know, how tall you put it. So you can see here around the mailbox and stuff, there is a bit of grass that is uncut. But overall, this one did a pretty good job here. But earlier today, again, it went off-roading and it basically went onto the street. So there's that. All right, it has finished under 14 hours. It's crossing the specific channels that you make from one area to the next. And it's heading back to charge here. But you can see some of the lines here that it's made. Again, it has a wider deck, so you can get better stripes than you would in something that is like the Yuka Mini or the Luba Mini. Those are a little bit smaller decks, so the cutting width is just smaller. So you'll see more stripes, maybe more pronounced stripes, and you may or may not like that. So yeah, I think it depends on what you particularly prefer. We set this in optimize, and you can have this cut randomly. So basically, if it's cutting, you know, this way on your lawn, it'll switch angles each time it mows and can get you different looks. Or if you want the same thing every single time, you can get that as well. But you can also change it to optimize, which it currently is set at, so that it can mow the quickest in the most efficient way. But yeah, just looking at this bit here, everything looks pretty decent. Just some spots around some of the bushes here where we've marked no-go lines. Let me check in the corner here too, because it's supposed to do the corner here. I guess we can watch it hit the recharger as well. But yeah, this works pretty well to hit the charger, seemingly. I guess it uses the camera as well as the RTK to get there. Look at Salem. She's like, what is that?
Start charging.
And verbal, it's charging. All right, we'll check the corner real quick. So it did lose RTK signal quite a bit, but if you let it sit there, it'll eventually find it. You can see here, there's quite a bit of long grass on the side here, and it did come through here. So again, it mowed down quite a bit of this, so this is good. This is good, nice. I've had the Yuka Mini had some issues coming through this way. It basically was on sensitive mode, so then it got stuck here. And then because it was in sensitive mode, it wouldn't come out of it. I just had it not do this portion of the yard. We have hooked up the sweeper, and funny thing is you can actually do a sweeper and also have it do mowing at the same time, which is kind of nice, similar to mopping and vacuuming. I think it probably thinks that it doesn't know where it's at the moment. So I noticed this too yesterday. Sometimes it runs into an issue where it isn't able to find the RTK like signal. So it sits there and waits as it finds it. Also note here on the top there, I mentioned at the install that we did need to add the counterbalance so that if it's going up hills and whatnot, that it doesn't, tip over. So again, still buggy. It said the channel was obstructed, which again, there's nothing obstructing the channel. So this is really going to let me know if it makes sense, if the sweeper is even worth it. Now the leaves aren't all fallen down, so there's it'll have to dig pretty deep to actually get this. So we'll see if it's able to even get to that with this massive thing on it. Or if it's gonna get caught in the tree or something like that. Will you get caught in the tree? Who knows? Where are you going? Wait, you have to mow here. Where are you going? Guy, hey, come over here. Oh God. So something that's kind of annoying that I noticed is that you can't really select a specific spot. So for example, there aren't any leaves here at the moment. They're really mostly just underneath the tree. So there's not really a way to just select a specific spot. You can select a area or percent to actually do. But if you want it to do just a little area, you have to map that out separately. There's no way to carve out an existing map and say, oh, I just want you to do this spot. I wish you could just spot clean, similar to the way that vacuums do. So you can see there's a little swifter underneath there, and that'll scoop about into the bucket there. Not entirely sure how this messes with the lawn, but I guess we'll see how it does. And there's specific dump cycles that you can schedule, so it would be great if there was a sensor to know when something was full, but it doesn't seem to have that. I can say it is picking things up, so it is mostly picking up grass and little acorns, or pine cones. Obviously you can still see leaves on the ground, so it's not going to be you raking it. I'll give you a look at what it looks like now and specific spots here that you can see, and then we'll show you the piles that it leaves. I think the piles are supposed to be right over here, and yeah, we'll see what it ends up giving us. This is the bin drop. It just dropped it where it's still supposed to do work, which is interesting. Okay, I'm assuming you move forward after that, yeah? And back down, do some more work. I mean, it didn't do nothing, right? There's your pile of leaves. That's gonna go back over it. Oh, is it just going to avoid the pile now? That's hilarious. That's so funny. Okay, so it does something, right? Batch number 2. Right over it. You gonna just pile it right on top of each other, or what? Do you have to come up with like a ton of dump spots for you? Again, not nothing. See here, it has compiled something. It did all of this, but again, you can still see a bunch of leaves here, so it did a job. I don't want to say it did a good job, but it did a job. I imagine if there's just leaves that are not like embedded in, it might be easier, but maybe if you run it a few times, it'll collect more, different things like that. But it did run into an issue where it just kept dumping on the same pile, so I imagine you have to do like multiple piles, but it didn't really allow me to dump in a lot of spots or set up a dump. Here, auto mapping, you can see how far away it is from the edge. It's not the best thing, but if it guarantees you that you won't run over, I think that's a nice thing to be able to guarantee, because yeah, when I did this, like the Yuka Mini didn't have any issues, like I said before, but this one, first time, ran straight over. So yeah, auto mapping's not too bad, but it will go into the neighbor's yard here. This is actually pretty funny because it sees the hose, and now it's like, oh, I can't go over that. But then it gets close enough to it, then it's like, oh, this is fine. So now it's confused. It's just trying to go recharge, and it's just going in a circle because it's like, I'm trapped. Oop, see? That's far enough away from the cameras that it didn't detect that. So that's why if you're leaving a hose and it's cutting low enough, it's gonna cut some holes into your hose. All right, I think this thing has got to go because it just keeps getting stuck here. And it only has that one caster wheel on the front, so cannot use this. Always will get stuck here. I would have to put a no-go line right here, which is stupid. Or just fill this hole in, which we can also do, but you know, it's a pretty deep hole. So probably should just do that for safety, but this thing just runs into it. It's not a complicated yard, but it keeps running into this issue. It's stuck immediately again after I took it out. You can see what it's looking like here.
The robot tilted. Test paused. Continue working.
So I did some manual sweeping, and these leaves are quite large, not just recently fallen, and it's not really doing the best of jobs here. So let me actually dump this and we can show you what it picked up. All right, so we did the manual dump here. We did run a bit fast across here and did see some droppage of leaves. So based on where you put these dump places, it's possible for it to drop a bunch of leaves. So there's that. Okay, so we have tested this out. I was fitting this piece again and it just wouldn't stay on. Anytime it just moves around, it runs into issues. But I did run this manually through a few things and dumped a few piles here. So obviously it doesn't do nothing, right? But I ran it through a few paths here. You can see probably some of the parts that it did and some of the parts that didn't. I've even ran over the piles that I created previously, and it doesn't really do much when going over it. Again, it's like a rubber brush. I just don't think I can recommend this. Like, it's just not good. It clearly does something, but I'd say even if you do it incrementally, like run it multiple times over the same plot, it's still not gonna pick up all the leaves. So, I mean, it does something, but not a great job. And when it is running, you can set the speed, obviously. It shoots leaves out of the top of it. So you can see again, it's capturing things, but once it gets full, it shoots leaves out of the top of it. And this is supposed to be on there, but this isn't designed very well to actually stay on the actual device. So yeah, there's that. So mowing, I'd probably get, I do like the larger width that it has cutting wise. I don't like that it doesn't have a light on it, and I don't particularly like that just one caster wheel on the front. Now I think it has to have that just for random reasons, but yeah, this one is, I'd definitely go for the Yuka Mini over this one because it's just lighter, it's cheaper, and I don't know if you would want to use it for this particular functionality. The wider length of cutting, so it takes less time to cut. So that's a really, really great thing. And then also, it's just tough to recommend something that continues to lose satellite signal all the time. So just around the house in the suburbs, it seems to run into issues with satellite. So more than the Yuka Mini. So I'm not entirely sure why that's the case. There were a few times where I had to drive it out. This thing's gotten stuck so many times that it's really difficult to keep track anymore. I would definitely go for the Yuka Mini over this one. It's just the bigger Yuka is not as good. The only good part about it is the two spinning blade decks that have a wider path so that it charges faster because it's a smaller battery, and then it just takes only 5 hours to mow versus like double that time. So I think that's the overall summation of this. I can't recommend getting the sweeper for an extra $650. The other thing is that I just think the dumping spots are just half-baked. Like, this is as close to the edges that I can actually dump anything. So I would imagine most people would want to do their dumps like closer to the edges. But yeah, not sure. This is it going over an existing pile. So you can see, it's not getting super deep in there. Got another pause signal, weak signal. And this is where we're at here. Let's get a rake here and just see what we can do with a rake versus this thing. All right, we got a rake. You can just see what we can pull here. We're gonna do this and then compare this to what ye old machine can do here. We spent like 5 minutes. Got a pile right there, but again, it's still currently stuck underneath there, so it's not doing anything right now. But this was just the leftovers of what it didn't do. So obviously if I did this myself, I would have gotten a much bigger pile. Since I did the rest of the raking, it's still stuck here. It's been about 20 minutes, so I guess we can get it unstuck and just send it back home, right? We have started the sweeper in the back. We have not a ton of leaves back here, but there's some leaves. What do we think? This is the pile. Well, I can empty it out again to see what it did, but this is what it did. It already went through all of this and it did not pick any of those up. We can run it manually, but again, defeats the purpose. So I don't think this particular mechanism does a great job of sweeping even big leaves. Another notification. It's just face deep in ditch. All right, it got stuck again here. So this is pretty interesting. When I do the FPV view, this one does not have a light on it. So when you do the FPV, you see nothing basically during the nighttime. So I'm assuming that the cameras are not going to be helpful when this thing is. Oh, also in the FPV mode, you can move the wiper in the bottom right corner. Taking a look at the FPV when it's daytime,
Let's do a wiper swipe. Wiper swipe.